Hello, everyone. Welcome to our voter registration training. My name is Andy Moore. I'm the CEO of Let's Fix This. I'm so excited for you to be here today. We are going to really hit this hot and heavy real quick. If you are here, I assume you are interested in doing voter registration, and we want to help with that. Over the last decade, we've done hundreds of events, registered thousands of voters, even before we had the online system, and now with the new online voter registration system. So we're really excited to kind of walk you through that today. So I've got some slides you can probably see here, and we'll click through them as we go. To begin, we're going to start with just the basics of online voter registration, or the basics of voter registration in general, the online system. Paper forms, not dead, still need those. Some hints and tips about talking to voters, setting up your table, anything that we can provide you some guidance on, we want to cover. So some initial things, right? So voter registration is open to any Oklahoma resident who is a U.S. citizen and ages 18 or older. Technically, if you are 17 and a half, if you will be 18 before the next election, you can still register. And I'll tell you from my side of things, it's super exciting when you meet that person who's going to like turn 18, in September or October, and you get a chance to register them. In the lead up to that, that's really great. But generally, anyone 18 and up who's a U.S. citizen and a resident of the state of Oklahoma. There's a few caveats for groups or people that are not eligible to register to vote. If they've been judged incapacitated by a court, you have to be able to write your name. And with the online system, that's probably already covered, but you have to be able to sign the form, is how that's originally intended. And then at the bottom of the screen there, if you've been convicted of a felony, and I will add this as a bit of a caveat, that if you've been convicted of a felony and you have served the entirety of your term, including any parole, probation, those kinds of things, whatever the original sentence was, if it was 10 years, that full 10 years has to pass by. If you have, you can re-register to vote. The state won't do it for you. They don't come out and proactively reach out to you. I wish they would, but you can register yourself. All right, so some basics about voter registration drives. Anybody can do it, right? Voter registration, while I feel it is a nonpartisan activity, is open to anyone in the state, including political candidates and political parties. And sometimes you'll see at like a county fair, there'll be a booth for the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, something like that. That's totally legal. We today are going to talk about from a nonpartisan perspective, because we are a nonpartisan organization, and there's a good chance that you are as well. There is no special training or certification required. Honestly, the fact that you are here today and this training puts you way ahead of the game. A lot of folks just grab some forms and get out there, which is not bad, but you will be a little better equipped than most folks. In some states, they require voter registration drives to be like certified by the county election board or something. That's not the case in Oklahoma. You can get forms, voter registration forms, paper forms, either from your county election board. That's a great way to do it. They will give you a certain number if you just request. You can also print them off of the state election board website. So I usually have a combination of both. I get some from the county election board. They're like the thicker cardstock ones that open up and have all the instructions there. But if we're doing a big drive and we need a lot of forms, I'll just print some off the website. It's just a PDF that's freely available. As a reminder, though, you cannot incentivize anyone to register to vote. So you cannot say, if you register to vote, you get a free popsicle, or you get a free beer, or a discount on anything. Can't do that. Businesses can't do it. Nonprofits can't do it. That is illegal. If you offer any kind of incentive, like if you're giving away stickers, right? You have to make those available to anybody who wants one that comes by, right? You can, if someone registers, you can say, hey, you want a sticker too? That's fine. But if someone comes up and just wants a sticker, right? That's fine. We'll talk more about incentives in a minute. Now, online voter registration is finally here. You can go online to the state election board and use the online voter portal. That's great. This is a long time coming. It was authorized in 2015. It was finally implemented in 2023. So that was 8 years of time for them to work on the back end. It's not perfect, but it's really good, and it's way better than not having it, right? One of the most important things to me about the online system is that it's accessible from anywhere. It saves time, it saves money, and it saves mistakes. If you've ever tried to read anyone else's handwriting, even your own handwriting, I look at my own handwriting all the time and it's abysmal. But if you try to read a stranger's handwriting, it is often also not very good. And that means that paper forms are sometimes not accepted, right? If the election board staff can't read it, they're not going to put it in, and we don't want any barriers to people registering to vote. So the online system makes it a lot better. There are some caveats for people who can't use the online system because the online voter registration tool requires an individual to have an Oklahoma driver's license and to enter that number. So sometimes we're doing a table in the community and people come up and they don't have their driver's license with them and they don't know their driver's license number, because who does really? Then they have to use a paper form or come back later when they've got their driver's license. Also, sometimes people who have just moved to Oklahoma from another state and want to register, if they haven't done it at the tag agency when they change their license over, because maybe they haven't done that yet, then they can't use the online system to register to vote either. Same thing with college students who are maybe here now and are living here and want to vote in Oklahoma. They have to have an Oklahoma driver's license to use the online system. So that's like a big caveat there. Other than those, right? If you've got a driver's license and you live in Oklahoma, if you've got an Oklahoma driver's license, you live in the state, and that driver's license is from the last like 4 years, as it probably should be, then there's a good chance that you can do the online system. Some really great benefits about it is that it's free, it's easy, it's online, right? You can go to elections.ok.gov or ok.gov/elections. Either way, it's right there. Or just Google Oklahoma online voter portal, and it'll take you to it right there. So that's great. It works for the majority of voters, as I said, and talked about handwriting. Some other limitations that I didn't mention: it does require internet access, right? So if you live in a rural area without access to good broadband, it might not be as accessible to you. If a driver's license, the website, I will say, is smart, not pretty, right? Much like me. And so it works. It's very functional. It's not like a beautifully designed website. It can be a little not intuitive. It's a little Windows 95-y, but it works. So that's good. And then another caveat, and this applies to paper forms as well. They're only in English. The website's only in English. So if you are someone that speaks another language, Spanish, Vietnamese, anything else, right now it's not able to provide voter registration services in their native language, which is a limitation. Hopefully you've got volunteers that can help bridge that gap, or friends or family or something. In addition to the state's official online voter portal, there's a lot of great nonprofit voter portals that kind of dovetail with that. We have one. You can go to letsfixthis.org/vote. It's a very similar, a little prettier, but it's a little very similar form. You go through, you can fill it out. Some added benefits of going through like our portal is that it enables the voter to re-sign up for election reminders. So we use a system called TurboVote. That's what powers the back end of our online portal. TurboVote is excellent. They're trusted across the country. They're one of like the big three online voter systems, online voter registration systems. They'll send you email or text reminders, whatever you want to sign up for. That's super helpful. And if people go through our portal, it lets us know as well, not all the information, but enough to kind of follow up on it so that we can check against the state's voter file and make sure that registrations were actually processed. If they just go through the state portal, while I'm sure it's fine, it's hard to know if it was or wasn't. So this is like an extra check and balance on the state system. And TurboVote is, as I said, immensely secure. So there's three big ones: TurboVote, Rock the Vote, and Vote.org. You've probably seen them. do commercials or advertisements or be talked about by other nonprofits. I think TurboVote is the one that I like the best. That's the one we use, but they're all great. We used to use Rock the Vote. I know the people at vote.org. They're all great. To each their own. The end result of all of these is that people get registered. That's the most important. All right, so paper forms. Let me grab one. Ahoy, I have one right here. So, some reports of paper forms going away have been greatly exaggerated. As I mentioned, the online system is great, but not 100%. So we always recommend that you bring paper forms with you. And I have some friends that just prefer still using paper forms, even with their flaws and limitations. So we always keep these on hand so that people can use them if the online system doesn't work. So usually we have people try the online system first. And like on most of our clipboards, I just have a thing on the back with a QR code that will send people to our online portal, have them do that first. If that doesn't work, flip it over, let them do the paper form, right? Super easy. There's maybe some other reasons why they can't be found in the system. The system will tell you it cannot be found right now, like use a paper form. And so it's great to have it available. Is it annoying to the voter? Yeah, probably a little bit. Most government interactions are. So it's okay. Your job is to make it as easy, as friendly, and as friction-free as possible. Some tips on how to use paper forms. Be sure that all of the fields are completed. Starting at the top, this box here that has a bold box around it, it's often skipped. It asks if the voter is 18 years of age or older, and it asks if they're a citizen of the United States. They have to check yes on both of those before they keep going. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. First name, last name, address, date of birth. They have to provide their driver's license number or their last four of their social. You really need one of those at least to get in the system. Then they have to pick a political party or no party, right? Right now there's four options, essentially: Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, or no party, which is also known as an independent. There is a box for other, and that might be someone who moved here from California or somewhere that has other parties, like the Green Party or the Common Sense Party or whatever. They could pick that. When it's processed by the state, those people will be registered as independent. So it's not really, doesn't matter because those are the only parties that are recognized in our state right now. There's also a box for county of residence. This is the other blank that people often skip. So once you help someone fill it out, I kind of watch them, provide some guidance along the way, and then say, hey, before you walk away, let me check this over and make sure we got everything before you leave. So make sure they did that, and then make sure they sign and date it. If they don't sign it, it doesn't get processed. So that's super important. So just do a quick look, just run your finger over everything, check for county, check for sign and date. And I always remind people, please, please, please write legibly. Your E might be an E to you, but it might be a C to the election board. Let's make sure we spell our names correctly. It's really not hard. People fill out forms all the time. It's way harder at the doctor than it is to register to vote. Now, when you are talking to voters, a few hints and tips. Initiate conversations, right? Like if you are at a booth, you've got a table, you've got a banner that's up, people might walk up to you if they want to register. But a lot of folks will just kind of saunter by, and it is your job to bring them in, right? And so you should really reach out and talk to them. If you are at an event and you've got several volunteers, give some of them a clipboard and have them go out into the field, into the crowd, and just mingle around, right? If we're at a big event and there's a bunch of vendor tables, we make sure to hit all those vendor tables too. Those people are there all day. It's a captive audience. And then just to mill around, right? If you're at a fair or a festival, there's tens of thousands of people. You want to spread your volunteers out, have them post up in places and make sure that they're offering people the opportunity to register to vote throughout the event. Always be friendly. This should go without saying, but just be friendly. You don't have to get into a debate about policy. In fact, I encourage you not to, right? Just ask them if they're registered to vote. As we said about incentives, stickers, buttons, whatever. Make sure that whatever is available to everybody. So, I have them on our table. We use a fishbowl because it's real windy in Oklahoma, and this way my stickers don't blow away. But often, like, kids will come by, and great thing about kids coming to your booth, while they can't register to vote, maybe their parents can. We can lure the kids in with candy and stickers. Also, if you're doing an event in the summertime, don't use chocolate candy. Any candy. It gets hot, it gets melty and sticky. It's a big mess. I've made that mistake too many times. I save candy for fall and winter events, stickers for the summer, maybe some bubbles, just to kind of draw people in. So some other tips when talking to voters: remain nonpartisan. Regardless of how they're going to register, you might look at somebody and maybe you judge them a little bit. You think you might know their party affiliation. One, you probably don't. And two, it doesn't matter, right? Our goal is to make sure that every eligible Oklahoma voter has the ability to register and to vote. We want to facilitate that. So just try to do your job, right? People will sometimes try to engage you on certain issues. It's okay. This is not necessarily the time. In fact, it might be detrimental to your cause not to get into it. So I will explain to people when they're registering on the form, when they pick party, sometimes people say, what's the difference, right? And I'm saying, well, we can look up their policy platforms online if you'd like. But functionally, right, like, one of the important differences that currently Oklahoma has closed primaries. So if you register for the Democratic Party, you can only vote in Democratic primaries. Libertarians, only Libertarian primaries. Republicans, only Republican primaries. If you register as no party or independent, you don't have primaries, except right now the Democratic Party allows independents to vote in those primaries. So independents can also vote in Democratic primaries, but not Libertarian or Republican. Currently in our state, there are a lot more Republican primaries than Democrats, just based on voter registration and competitive districts. And that means that a lot of independents, which is the largest, fastest growing voter bloc in our state, they get blocked out of those primary races. That's a conversation for another day, but I do let people know that if they ask, like, I'm independent, what does that mean? You can kind of explain to them, like, it means you're not a part of a party. It will right now have the consequence that you don't get to vote in primaries except for the Democratic Party. As I said, check the form before they go. And then always make sure that you tell them about the next upcoming election, right? So if there's one coming in a couple of months, make sure they know when that is. Try to have other materials. Like, we have these little voter cards we have right now that say vote, and it has the election day for this year and has a QR code to our voting website, and then information in the back about who can vote, ways to vote, and don't forget to bring your ID to vote, because we are a voter ID state. We always have tons of these on our table. If you want some of these, let me know. I got a box of a couple of thousand. I'm happy to give you some. If you're going to pass them out, that's what we want, is to get them into the hands of voters across the state. All right, some other hints and tips. Signage helps, right? If you were at an event and you're just a person standing around with a clipboard, you're going to be easily overlooked. Having this on the back in big print is a big help, right? If people can see a clipboard, this is like my little sign that I carry around with me, register to vote, let people know. And then, because they'll read that and then they'll look at your face and you say, hi, are you registered to vote? So that's a great way to do it. If you've got a table or a booth, we've got a tablecloth, that's helpful. I also have some big banners that I'm not going to unfold this, but it says register to vote, right? It's the same logo. Big banner is really helpful because then people can see it from like way across, and they might say, oh, I need to come over and do that. So signage always helps. If you've got a table, use that as your home base and then send volunteers out into the crowd, as I mentioned. Bring lots of pens. I've got my little voter kit here. As a reminder, like even if you're just doing paper forms on the side, bring lots of pens, right? Lots and lots. I've got lots of pens because I buy cheap pens in large quantities, and sometimes they don't work or they walk off, right? If you've ever been a waiter, your pens don't always return to you. just bring extra pens. Nothing is more frustrating than running out of pens. Some other supply kit things that I think are handy. Whoops, wrong one. I being rope and tape. A couple of kinds of tape. This is gaffer's tape, some rope. You never know. It's really string. Scissors, pins, and then all your cards, right? Or stickers. We have little buttons that say "Let's fix this." Whatever you've got. We try to bring stuff that is relevant to an event. If it's Halloween time, we'll bring Halloween candy. We'll decorate our booth appropriate for the event. So just kind of be thoughtful about that. If you've got other materials, resources, if you've got voter guides or whatever, do that. We also have little plastic flyer stands. Whoops. So it's the little plastic ones that can stand on your table. That way you can put forms, QR codes like on your table. That's really helpful in case people are coming up to you. That makes a big difference as well. Other hints and tips, match your volunteers to your target audience. If you are at a youth-focused event, try to get some youth volunteers, right? We all know college students are going to be more likely to talk to other college students than a gray-haired 43-year-old. I don't know. Maybe you dress cooler than I do, but try to match your audience. People are more likely to talk to people who look like them. So be thoughtful about that and just try to be approachable, right? Like if you have a big angry face and you're just kind of standing there, you're not looking very hospitable or friendly, so people may not come up to talk to you. What I always recommend when you're talking to voters is to ask them if they're registered to vote. And then if they say yes, say at your current address, because there are a surprising number of people who are registered at their old address and they moved 3 months ago and they haven't updated it yet, right? I just moved a few months ago, and even though I do this for a living, it took me several weeks to even think like, oh, I need to update my license and my voter registration. And so giving people the chance to do that makes a big difference. Because you might live, if you live in Bixby, but you register to vote in Broken Arrow, you're probably not going to drive over there, right? If you registered in Norman and now you live in Oklahoma City, you're not going to drive back to vote. You might vote by mail, but in Oklahoma, not enough people do. So that's an option, but it's still good and legal to re-register at your current address. Again, for the online system, you do have to have a driver's license that matches that. So if you haven't updated your license, remind people to do that and then have them do the paper form. There's no substitution for you for being prepared. So know the paper form, go through it on your own beforehand, fill it out yourself, just practice, so you know exactly what fields are there. That is always helpful. Also, just read through all of the rules. The stuff the state puts out is very helpful. It's very informative. When you print off the forms, there's the instruction sheet as well. Same thing if you get the paper forms from the county election board, it has all the rules and regulations. Keep that handy. Keep it at your table. Keep it in your back pocket. Make sure that you have it there to reference in case there's ever a question you don't know the answer to, right? And if you don't know the answer, just say so. Don't make up an answer, right? Just say, I'm honestly not sure. Let's see if we can find it. Look on the paper, Google it. Give us a ring if you need some backup. Whatever you can do, ask the other volunteers. Maybe someone knows the answer. It doesn't come up very often, but if that's the case, please find the correct information to give to voters. And then, as I said earlier, always explain what happens after they register, right? I tell them, okay, I'm going to mail this in, for you tomorrow. I didn't say that, but at every voter reg drive, I bring an envelope with completed registration forms. When they fill it out, I put it in here, and then I take it back to the office and I either drop it by the election board or I mail it into the election board. I do tell people okay, in a couple of weeks, you are going to we'll mail these in, and then in a few weeks you will receive your voter registration card in the mail. It'll be a little postcard thing, the piece you can tear off, and I will show them mine, which I keep in my pocket all the time. Because I'm that kind of nerd. So I show them what it looks like, and I say that it has your county, your address. your precinct number, and I tell them like it's 6 digits. The last 3 are the ones you probably pay attention to, and the polling place. And like I just kind of walk them through it. And we're going to try to make some videos about what it's like to actually vote, because I know the first time you go in, it can be kind of intimidating. I had to vote at a new polling place this year, and I had never been there before. I walked in, and there was 2 precincts, and I was like, shoot, I don't know which one I'm at. So I had to pull out my voter registration card, look at it, figure out which precinct was mine. And even that was like a little bit of a hassle. And, if anybody has any amount of anxiety, that might be enough to annoy them and to make them anxious and for them to leave. And we don't want that. So anything that you and I can do on the front end to help prepare people for what they might experience is going to be beneficial down the road. Don't forget that voter registration forms, online or paper forms, must be received by the election board 25 days before the election. You can't change your party affiliation for the big chunk of the year in election years, like in 2024, from April to August. That's because that's the primary season. And as we said, you have closed primaries, and they don't allow people to switch parties between like the primary and the runoff. So kind of whatever you register is what you're stuck with. You can submit forms, they just won't be processed until after that date. This is from the state, their calendar. They put this out every year, an updated calendar with all the dates and what's happening. You'll see in the bottom right corner, voter registration deadline for this year for the November election is October 11th, right? So that's about 25 days before the election. So everything has to be received and processed by the election board by October 11th. So if you're out there doing voter reg for the next, month and a half, that's the deadline, right? You've got until October 11th. If you need additional information, go to our website, letsfixthis.org. We also kind of run okvotes.org, which will look very similar. And then, as I mentioned, the state election board, of course, is our go-to resource for all things voting in Oklahoma. Go there. I will say on our websites, we will also have links to voter registration guides, voter guides, like from the League of Women Voters and others, nonpartisan information. This video will be there. Other hints and tips about how to register to vote and how to vote will be on there. So including information about voting by mail, which is super handy. All right, if you have any questions, this is not live, I'm recording this, so you can't ask right now, but you can send us an email to voting@letsfixthis.org. That will come directly to me and our team, and we are happy to respond to any questions you have. If you're out there doing a voter registration drive, if you want to launch one and you have some questions about how to make it happen, send us an email. We're happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for caring about voting and for helping others to vote. Get out there and let's fix this. Have a good day.